Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
So tonight we are reviewing The Last House on the Left, which was released in 1972. Yep. And before
this is the original one.
Before we get into it, I know I promised I would be doing the other Sarah initiation movie later on. But seeing as it came in we just got it this morning in the mail, so
we're going to read it, look at it, and review it and stuff.
Yeah, after we do these two reviews, and then we'll review that one.
Now, this one here is Last House on the Left, 1972, rape revenge film. Now, rape revenge, okay. But the reason why we're doing this one, because it was written by Wes Craven, directed by Wes Craven, and edited by Wes Craven. And we thought, that's interesting. And reading a bit deeper into it, it says this is directorial debut. So this is his first major project.
Yeah, it's more of a student film project he did.
Well, I don't know if a student one, but it was his first major project he got into. He might have done a few shorts and other bits and pieces before this, but this is a real one.
So this was long before he did Nightmare on Elm Street. And long before, years before he did Scream and all that stuff.
A long time before.
So
now, wait a minute. It was made on a budget of $90,000, made about $2 to $3 million at the box office back then. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a problem. It could have made more money, but it got banned in so many places.
Yeah, I guess it was too graphic or too realistic.
But back in 1972, the censorship laws were a little bit heavier, and they didn't like the content of it because of rape and violence and stuff. And they thought,
murder.
It was a little bit too graphic for some. It was banned in some countries. It was banned for so many years, and they turned around and said, "Oh, okay, we might let it loose now because censorship laws have changed."
Ooh,
blah blah
reminds
blah.
me, Mike. Didn't you tell me? I know you're probably going to bring this up later on, but you said this movie was taken or inspired from another movie?
I am glad you brought it up. I was going to say something. Now, Wes based this storyline for the movie, on a 1960 Swedish film called The Virgin Spring. I saw this many, many years ago, actually.
So this was like 11 years ago.
Well, 11 years 12 years before he did
this
his
movie.
one. Now, once again, Virgin Spring was directed by Ingmar Bergman, and he was well known back in those days, which in turn is an adaptation of the Swedish ballad, Torres Dotter Wenge, whatever. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But when they did it, the producer, Sean Cunningham, used relatively unknown actors as well. Probably kept the budget down a tad. And, So, lots of good groovy things happened out of this. But Wes was inspired. He wrote an anglicised version of this original film, which was set in an earlier period.
Years later, in 2009, they remade this movie, and I guess then it was acceptable to
censorship laws changed from decade to decade. And what was scary and horrible and distasteful back in the 50s was acceptable in the 70s and 80s, and what was distasteful and not real good in the 80s was acceptable in the 2000s, and the things that might have been a bit dodgy in the 2000s are probably acceptable now. That's what I was going to say before we interrupted.
Sorry.
Will you stop interrupting me every time I try to get a point across?
Yeah.
Just for once.
Well, I'm just raising a point myself.
No. You say, oh, no, it wasn't that.
Anyway, I got to admit, when I look at this poster they did, it makes me think of a news item you may have seen on the news.
It does, actually, yeah.
A little.
It does, actually. No, I noticed that when I looked at it before. Anyway, now I'll go for a couple of thingies. Made for 90,000, like I said before, came about $2 to $3 million box office, and once it got released in the home media, it's obviously made more money. I wouldn't say it's a cult film, but it's actually gained some popularity along the line.
I got to admit, whenever I see this movie, it comes off as a bit realistic to me.
And I think that was a problem. It felt real, and it looked a bit real, and it became a bit scary because it was too close to home, because this sort of thing does happen.
True.
Females get abducted and raped and killed and stuff.
Yeah.
And,
And this is why you have to keep in...
Yeah. So I'm a very, I wouldn't say I hover and I'm an overprotective father, but when my girls were growing up, I used to pick them up from the train station at night instead of letting them walk home in the dark and, that sort of stuff,
Yeah, even though...
look after them,
Even though, aside from those times, when my dad was not around to pick me up, I would have to traipse the long walk home.
A long walk home with lots of lights, not through the local park or past the local cemetery or anything like that.
It's always kind of dark in one part of the...
there is. Right into the train station, there's a park. And it's pretty, parks at night are pretty empty.
Yeah, and there is also a spot where I'm walking across the road, and there's not much lamplight. And
you could go run over.
Well, it's not like that. I mean, it's just that part, and it does seem creepy. Like someone will jump out of the forest or the woods to probably do whatever nasty things to you.
Possibly.
That's what scares me the most.
Now here we go. Right, I'm going to go into it. Right, relatively unknown people in this, so you won't notice or recognise too many of these people unless you saw them in another bit role in some other film around that period. There you go. Sandra Peabody plays Marie, M-A-R-I, Collingwood. She has a friend called Lucy Grantham, Phyllis Stone, as I heard that Lucy Stone plays a friend, Phyllis Stone, there's a few people here. David Hess plays Krug Stillo. He's an escaped crim. Fred Lincoln plays Fred Podolsky, or Weasel to his friends. Have you got any friends? Jeremy Rain, it's actually a female, plays Sadie. And Mark Scheffler plays Junior Stillo. So it must be Krug's brother or something or other.
Well, actually, they said it was his son, but he looks too the old. Same age as Crane a little bit when you think of. I mean, when they did the remake years later, they had a younger boy to play his son, and it kind of worked a bit better there.
Just the age. You couldn't see the age bracket, the age difference there. Anyway, now Ellen Shaw plays Estelle Collingwood, but she was credited as Cynthia Carr for some stupid reason. And why I'll never know. A guy called Richard Towers, credited as Gaylord St James, plays Dr. John Collingwood. So these last two people play the lead girl's parents.
I do like the fact that in this one it takes these killers, these creepy guys, and put into a very alternate environment where they think that they get the upper hand, but in reality they get into a sort of a twisted version of Home Alone, sort of home invasion of itself when you think about it.
Yeah.
Where the victims of their daughter's killers would become the victims themselves, and the killers would be the persons who had their daughter taken away from them.
Anyway,
I just think it's an interesting mix where you get the evil people getting, you don't root for them, but you kind of root for the mother and husband fighting their way out.
They're getting revenge. They found out their daughter's been killed by these couple. They realise these are the killers, so they decide to go out and take law into the matters in their own hands. Yeah. They become the law. They become the jury. They become the judge, and they become the executioners.
Et cetera.
Sounds groovy, hey?
It does sound groovy. Anyway, so should we just dive into the story?
Well, you jump in there if you whatever.
Yes. So the story begins where Marie is actually celebrating her birthday with her
17 years old.
Her mummy and daddy, and she makes plans of going off with her friend
to a concert or something.
To a concert in the city, and her mother and father, they're a little concerned about her hanging out with this girl, obviously, because they think she's a bad influence.
Yeah, I like that type.
Anyway, they hope to make plans with her later on to celebrate her birthday properly with a cake, streamers, decorations, blah blah blah, the usual stuff you expect from your parents.
Yeah, when you get back to we've all done them. But about the same time, you hear the news broadcast about some escaped prisoners.
Oh, yes. About 3 of them escaped jail. And, of course, it mentions of...
Oh, here it is. Here's the list of them. involving the criminals Krug Stillo, a sadistic rapist and serial killer, his heroin-addicted son, Junior, Sadie, a promiscuous psychopath and a sadist, and Fred Weasel Podolsky, a child molester. So what a wonderful, fantastic group of people. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Anyway, so the girls head to the city where, well, before they get to the city, they actually hang out, drink some wine before they head to the city, obviously. And there they get some ice creams where they hope to score some good stuff. Drugs.
Yeah, they want a bit of grass.
Yeah, you know.
The green dream, you know.
They meet Junior on the street corner and ask him whether they can get some, obviously. And he thinks Marie looks really cute, obviously.
Well, let's go back. They went before the escape friends were in a motel room. They said, wouldn't be good if we get a couple of other females in here. And Junior goes outside for a while. He's standing there on a street corner or outside the building, and these two girls come along.
Yes,
Good
they
timing,
do.
Hey.
Anyway, he invites them up to his
their
apartment where they lock them in, or Junior locks them in, and the guys start having fun with the girls here.
Teasing them. Sexually...
deviants.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway, while this is happening, Marie's mum and dad are setting up the stuff as we go along. And the music's, it does, so you guys know, the music is very ordinary
70s.
music. 70s. Nothing...
It doesn't actually suit the film by my standards. No.
Yeah,
but anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's not important.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway, so they start fooling around with the girls. And
fooling around, they rape Phyllis.
Yes. And... the girls try to leave, but the place is locked up pretty tight. Anyway, they soon rape her friend, obviously, I think. And later on, much later on the next day, the parents call the police, or the sheriff, considering this is a small town.
Trying to find out if they heard anything, little girls get in trouble.
Of course, she might be just... out really late, and she might have been tired, and it might be coming home by dinner time. Who knows?
Well, they should have been home by that early next morning. I think the concert finished about 2:00 in the morning,
they
so
found out
they
that.
had to choo-choo train or something rather to come back home again, and it was getting late.
Anyway, soon enough, Crane and his crew, they load the girls into their boot, their trunk of their car, and they make their way down to just make their way away. Obviously, they're from their apartment, obviously. And as they're going, they're listening to the radio. We hear a lot of that music, and soon enough, their car breaks down right outside Marie's home, or her parents' home, anyway. And of course, they take the girls out and. This is around this time when the sheriff has arrived at Marie's family's house, and they're talking about where Marie might be, obviously, and they're worried, obviously. Anyway, the crew then takes the girls into the woods where they plan on doing some more nasty things to them, which they do.
We won't go into it.
Anyway, the sheriff and his deputy is with them.
Yeah.
They drive out of the driveway and they spot their car that's, and they think nothing of it
because they didn't know what car that the criminals were actually driving.
Yeah.
So it's the last time it's broken down. We're too busy to look into it, so they just kept driving.
So they drive back to their headquarters, the police station, and there they get wind of on the radio saying about the criminals and their car.
What car they're driving. They realise, crappy, that was the car we passed down near the people's house.
They quickly get into gear and they drive their police car down that road again. But something happens.
No, they run out of petrol because the deputy didn't check the fuel.
No, he didn't.
Duh.
And they have to walk, how many miles again was it?
Well, they'll talk. When they're talking, I think the deputy said, how far is it? And the sheriff said, it's about 10 miles. Mm-hmm. Now, the sun was up.
Yes.
Getting that. So I don't know what time of day it was. I think it was after lunch sometime, maybe. Because the sheriff would have been out there early in the morning because the parents would have been worried about the daughter So, yeah, I would say early afternoon. This is what I don't like about this show. Well, we'll get in. They're walking, and while they're walking, carry on.
Marie and her friend, they continue getting beaten and raped by these people, and of course, her friend ducks away, trying to get Fred and Sadie to follow her, so Marie can actually escape. But she gets sort of, she tries to persuade Junior to allow her to escape. But of course, he continues to. He's druggy. He's not thinking clearly. It's obviously he wants to help her, and he doesn't want to anger his father and the rest of the group. Obviously, he doesn't seem to think about the situation very clearly. Anyway, but soon enough, Fred and Sadie, they eventually catch up to her friend, and she is stabbed to death. Yeah, stabbed to death, yes, by the group. And they're covered in her blood at this point. Anyway, soon enough, Marie tries to get Junior to come with her to get to safety, but soon enough the crew back arrive, and you see them covered in her friend's blood, and stuff. She is in shock, and she starts wandering towards the lake, and as she's throwing herself into the water, one of the criminals takes out a gun, and bang, bang, she's dead.
Main one, the Krug, he got a gun and he shot her a couple of times, and she's a floaty.
Yeah, when I saw her sort of lying in the water like that, it made me thought of a painting. I think I saw...
A Monet or something?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what type of painting. I think it's in your notes.
I don't know. Doesn't matter.
I think it was. Let me have a peek here. I'm sorry. I never take Mike's notes of him till now.
Not normally.
Let's see here. It's John Everett's painting Ophelia. Yeah. That's where she lies in that similar position where she's just lying there, like, sort of in the water amongst the
lily pads or something.
Lily pads and stuff. Anyway,
and having frogs jumping all over and stuff. And
anyway, so the criminals quickly then wash the blood and gore off their body
and change their clothes. Yes.
Yeah, they brought along a suitcase full of clothes.
Well, even travelling criminals need clothes.
Well, they did steal them. They said that they stole some. They said they got some, but I think they stole them from somewhere, obviously.
Possibly.
Anyway, so they then, later in the evening, they eventually they kind of tap on Mary's parents' door, obviously. Yeah, and at this point, she's dead.
Actually, the criminals don't know it's their house, Mary's house, at this point in time. And Mary's parents are just nice, good people, and they invite them in because they said, our car's broken down.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway...
No one knows anything.
So they invite them in and offer both her daughter's room and the guest's bedroom, I think. And there they noticed on the Marie's bedroom mirror photos of her and her parents, and it finally clicks in place, meaning that they think that they might kill the parents and maybe sort of use their stay at this house. Well, they didn't say it in so many words, but
they indicated they might. Yes.
They might squat there for all we know, and kind of kill them eventually later on. Obviously, of course. They decided to continue playing along with that. They were just a bunch of businessmen on a road trip to do some business stuff, of course.
They lied
a great deal. Well, all this time, they're eating at the table. And
he made dinner for them.
Of course, talking to them. And Ginny's upstairs dreaming of what has occurred.
He's going through withdrawal, and he's having nightmares about what's transpired just recently.
Yeah, of course he screams out at one point, and then his father comes in and tells him to shut up. Yeah. Anyway, so the group settles in for the night, and this is where, while Frank Jr. is throwing up, this is where Estelle noticed that he was wearing hippie type necklace.
It's a peace medallion that he gave to Marie as she walked out the door to go out to this function, this concert. And this guy's wearing it.
Yeah, she gave it to Junior when she was pleading for her life to be saved.
Here's something. So then whilst he's in that area, that end of the house, she goes into a room and checks the bag that they brought with them and finds some bloody clothing. And at the same time, she can hear him talking through the wall. And they're talking about how they killed the girls.
Yes.
And then she's starting to put two and two together, hey?
Yeah. So she and her husband, John, Dr. John, they headed into the woods to try to find Marie. And they've discovered her body. She kind of probably swam as much as she could back to the land as much as she could. I don't know how she can have the energy.
She was dead. She floated.
Yeah. Anyway, she was leaning against a tree, so she might have somehow still had the energy to get to or maybe she floated there and managed to get onto the land.
I can understand how that happened.
Me neither. Consider she's got shot several times, not just once.
She stagnant in the water because she was traumatized, and he took 3 shots at her, and he did pretty good. Mm-hmm. She should have been dead.
Yeah. Anyway, the parents grieve, and they realize that they must do something.
Revenge be mine.
So they do it like, as I said before, like Home Alone's Twisted style, where the father, he damps the rug out, near the welcome mat, and puts electric wire against it.
Mains voltage through from the power point into the mat, underneath the mat, and pours water over it so it sweats, so it conducts. Yeah. And obviously the door handles are metal and whatever. Yeah. And somehow or other he made a circuit, Yeah.
And he also uses some shaving cream to wet
the floor slippery outside their room.
Yeah. Anyway, then Estelle takes Fred outside while her husband's doing all this.
And she flirts with him just as a ruse.
Yeah. She plans on getting her revenge by biting his.
Well, no.
I won't go into details there.
She's flirting with him, and he said, "I can satisfy you with my hands tied behind my back." So I said, "Okay, let's do it that way." So, she used reverse psychology to make him want for her to tie his hands behind his back, and then when she got down in front of him and went down to where his was and gave him a head job. And he was really having a great time until she bit it off.
Yes. And I don't know if he may have died, obviously, from it.
Well, it wouldn't be fun.
No. Anyway, while this is happening, let me see. John goes into the room and he points the gun at them.
Yeah, shotgun.
And here Crane wakes up and, well, I think he's about to shoot them, but then suddenly the lights go out, obviously.
I think there's a lamp in the room, and I think Kroll leans over and pulls a plug out, so John can't see it. There's a bit of a kerfuffle there, and the guns go off. He doesn't quite shoot him.
Yeah, anyway.
But they have a bit of struggle, but what's John get next?
Yes. Eventually, he slides out the door, and he tries to fight John as much as he could. Of course, all the while, Junior tries to take out a gun, I guess his father's gun, and tries to shoot his father, but all the time...
Stop him. He was feeling guilty.
Yeah. Crane kept telling him, you go and shoot yourself and stuff, which he does. He ends up putting it in his mouth and killing himself. And then, while this was more of a distraction, and then Dr. John takes a chainsaw.
He been watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
From the basement, and while this is happening, Kane tries to use the gun against him, the same gun that John was using, but it only had one bullet.
Yeah, only had one bullet in the shotgun.
Yeah, he even said that, and when he tries to lock the door, this was in the basement, he then realized, oh, F, that he's got a chainsaw. He's going to cut right through the door.
And he did.
Which he did.
So he bounced off the door pretty quick.
Yeah. He begins to fight him, and soon enough, Sadie tries to escape, but then she gets tackled by the mother and starts fighting her, and she soon ends up being pushed into the pool, and then the mother kind of slices her throat with the switchblade.
Yes, you had the knife, she dropped or something or other. She go over it, and Sadie's trying to get out of the pool. It's still just sort of throat. Yeah.
While this is happening, the sheriff finally arrives. Not a moment too soon, but not too late.
Just right at the end where everyone's dead, and John and Estelle are the last people standing.
Yeah, he then watches as he yells out to Dr. John to stop what he was doing, but it's too late. He already snapped.
He was a man on a mission.
Killed Crane, obviously. And there they all stand there looking at the scene, and John and his wife, they look at each other and they start crying, and then the credits roll. The end.
Good movie.
I'm sorry it's very brief, but I just there's some moments in this that seem
it's a change for you to be brief.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a bit it looks very realistic a little bit when I look at this movie. It does, unlike the new one, the remake, that one comes off as, it's implying sinister, while this one comes off as, this could happen in your own neighborhood. This does happen in your own neighborhood. It does not matter which country you live in. This stuff can be real, and it's frightening.
Well, here's something. A bit of information. I don't often get information behind the scenes of these things. Now, this was written by Wes Craven in 1971. The original script was intended to be a graphic, hardcore film. Mm-hmm. Okay. However, after shooting began, the decision was made to edit the script down to make it a little bit less harsh. So, what we saw here was tamed down compared to what they originally had in mind. Well, I had to get it past the censors too, you know.
Of course.
What else? Oh, yeah, it was based on that Swedish film. Yeah. Craven envisaged the film in which the violence would be shown in detail on screen, as he felt that many popular films had that era, such as westerns, glamorized violence, and the vigilante hero, and gave the public a misleading representation of death in the wake of the Vietnamese War. Now, the point is, what they're trying to say here is that, you go, bang, 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 someone falls down. It's not really graphic enough. It's sort of like, I spat at him and he fell over. Yeah, but when you get more graphic and a bit more blood, an arm is ripped off or something or other, chainsaw going through somebody, tad more graphic than the other movies of the time. Yeah. So, I can see where he's coming from.
True. I think that was why he was trying to go for a creative license for this one, obviously. Well, even though censors would not see it that way. But
here's something. The casting. Okay. The majority of the cast were inexperienced or first-time actors.
Oh, I see.
With the exception of Richard Towers, Eleanor Shaw, and Sarah Peabody, who were all in soap opera regulars. Who were all soap opera regulars and had prior film roles. They could have been lesser roles, but still they had a bit of experience in front of the camera. Yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I can't think of too many things. Wow. David Hess, the actor who played the naughty guy here, he's a musician and a songwriter as well. Didn't know that. Wow.
Interesting.
Okay. I'm just going for a few things here. Here's what I like. The film was shot on location for 7 days in New York City as well as Long Island, followed by shots in rural locations outside Westport, Connecticut. While filming in Connecticut, the cast and crew spent much time at producer Cunningham's family home. According to Craven, the lake sequence was shot in the town reservoir of Western Connecticut, wherever that is. Craven sought a documentary-style appearance for the film, marked by close-up shots and single-cut takes. I like single-cut takes. Sometimes you can get really good stuff on the first take. You don't need to get second.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like most if you've done it correctly. and if you don't need the second take, then it's all good. You don't need to worry about anything like that.
Oh, here's something I didn't know. This is interesting. Cunningham, the producer, later described the film shot as being guerrilla style. I like guerrilla style. With the crew spontaneously filming at locations and being forced to leave due to lack of permits. I love that. That's all I like doing. Yeah.
Meaning they didn't have a permit for
in
for
some
the
areas. When you go to, especially a public place, a park, a street, sometimes you need a permit to film there, whatever the local regulations are. That's what, remember Ed Wood?
Yeah.
What permits? Run.
Well, he said we didn't have a permit, blah, blah.
Yeah, no permits. But there are rules and regulations. Sometimes the permits are expensive, sometimes they're not, depending on how many people you're bringing in, etc., etc. But
yeah.
We've done things with permits and we've done things without permits. So,
yeah, but I imagine Wes Craven, he probably had a lot. Well, their rules were different back then, obviously.
Well, no, it's council rules, government rules. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not censorship rules; it's their rules.
True.
If you're going to borrow your house, someone's going to borrow your house to film in. You're going to expend money. Same as the council. So, yeah.
I did think it was pretty cool how they probably used a real chainsaw in the bit where he sawed through the door.
That looked a bit real. That I said, okay. They go, okay.
I could probably smell the gasoline fumes.
Well, they can also turn they can have a chainsaw on and then take the chain off it, so the motor's going, but you don't see anything happening because the chain isn't on there. When you're moving around really quickly, you don't notice there's no chain, or the chain's not moving. Yeah. It might be just stuck on there, and it's not actually on the cog.
Oh, just a thought, Mike. I was just thinking the other day when we were discussing the movie, whether or not the parents in the aftermath, would they go to jail for what they did?
Depends. But depends on what how if you got a good defence attorney. If they said they were not, they were distraught and everything at having seen the dead body of the daughter and the kills were there and the kills were threatening their lives, they may have got off for slap on the wrist, saying manslaughter, justifiable homicide, whatever. They might have got away with suspended sentences. But he was a doctor, and I don't think he would have got too many patients. Now, wait a minute. It's a bit more information. The film soundtrack was written by Stephen Chapin and David Hess, the guy who played the lead bad guy. Yeah, so he played.
So most of his music was used in this production.
They used it together. Yeah. And they did a mix of 60s folk, rock, and bluegrass. For the film soundtrack. Yeah.
Also, guys, I should mention that Sean. I think it was. I'm not sure, but I know that the guy who did Friday the 13th also even produced this production, obviously. So he was working alongside Wes Craven, when they were funding the project, obviously.
Is it, sorry?
Sean, I don't know his last name. I know I have actually talked to him, when I wanted to discuss, ideas about how to make a slasher and stuff.
This guy's Sean Cunningham.
Yeah, Sean Cunningham. Okay. He worked on Friday the 13th. That would have been years later, obviously, just around the time when Halloween was going to get, really out there and stuff like that. I got to admit, when the 70s came along, they kind of really laid the paths for gory horror, body horror. That's it. In this case, this one would probably be labeled, aside from a rape, movie that Mike just called it. In this, my opinion, I think it comes off as just like, body gore.
What's body horror? Body gore?
Well, it deals with nudity and stuff like that, which this one had
blood all over and stuff, and her friend's cam was cut off and that sort of stuff.
Well,
maybe.
Roughly. But, body horror means even nudity, like, showing someone's tits, showing a bit
That's
of,
not horror. I thought really good, actually.
Woman's bits, including sometimes if the production is really slow, they would often have men's parts.
Well, yeah, shown. That's another point too. I noticed that they were this movie, another movie we saw just recently, which we're going to review shortly. Back in those times, it wasn't uncommon to see a full frontal of a female, and guys almost full frontal as well. You can, and
unlike,
you're going, okay.
Unlike nowadays, where they do the women, but they don't do the men anymore.
Yeah, but they do a bit more tasteful. Yeah. I mean, do you really want to see
men's genitals?
Males or females in your face?
Nope.
POV shot. Oh, so looking at the camera. It's not always going to be like that. You don't always look at the camera. So you see a bit of a side on, 45-degree angle, that sort of stuff. But sometimes it doesn't work for me. I like to see what's actually happening, but not actually see everything.
Anyway, so is there any point of what I'm talking about the rest of the other reviewers?
I haven't got on the reviewers yet. Now the reviewers, it was mixed.
Okay.
As far as I can get from all the reviews and other bits and pieces, this is the way it goes. A lot of reviewers didn't like it. I didn't get any over-the-top positive reviews, but they got average to negative reviews primarily because of the topic of the genre.
Right.
Not the acting or anything else, but just that people didn't like this type of movie at the time. People actually walked out of the theatre.
Okay.
The cinema when it was actually being played. I couldn't handle them. What's that left? Yeah, that sort of thing. And you're going, okay, and you think, yes, I can see this because back in those days, this is back to 72. Yeah.
People walk out on it.
Well, things were a bit tame, and all of a sudden this comes. It's sort of like when Hitchcock did Psycho. Mm-hmm. They went from la 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 la, and then Psycho comes on the scene, and that was a bit of a quantum leap for their time. The things that they wanted to get away with in that movie. So this was sort of like one of these quantum leaps here, a little bit, and it caught the viewing audience a little bit
off guard.
So and it was banned in different areas.
Yeah.
So you couldn't get. I think England had it banned. I think it had a run in America, and then it was banned for a while, and then it was unbanned. I think it was going to be banned in Australia, but they didn't actually get around to banning it, so you could see it. But I think it went to art house theatres. It didn't actually go to mainstream theatres and that sort of stuff. It could have reached a lot more people and made a lot more money for them.
Despite his film debut in this movie, at least he managed to not give up. I mean, he manages to land himself other creative films, with a little bit more practice and a little bit of, what stuff to put in and what stuff to leave out. And he did okay for himself for Wes Craven.
Yeah, no, I have found one surprising review from a critic. I have a love-hate relationship with this guy. Roger Ebert, he passed away a little while ago. No, he said he actually gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4 stars.
Wow, that's an appraisal.
And he said it's about 4 times as good as you would expect.
Ha!
Then you turn around, the Christian Science Monitor News referred it as a desperately sordid melodrama and a vulgarised version of Virgin Spring. Virgin Spring was not a very nice picture of a movie anyway. And
I've never seen it, so I can't really compare notes yet.
Peckinpah's film, the Straw Dogs, and a lot of just bad-mouthed it, but Roger actually liked it.
Yeah.
He could see it for what it was, and it was well done. So
yeah.
And Roger, love him or hate his reviews.
He's human. I should
He's
remember.
human, and I didn't think he would actually like this sort of film.
Yeah, I would think this movie he would probably give it the lowest of the low.
I thought he would have got 1 out of 4.
Reviewers.
But no.
But he gave it a good, fair, modest, very upfront opinion about it. Obviously. Anyway, I do think it's pretty cool, especially the fact that how realistic its approach is, like how the police could be, be a little bit, foolish when they don't even get to the investigation on time. I thought it was, but I still have a hard time believing that they couldn't make it till the very next day. Do you share my opinion about how long the sheriff and his deputy soon arrived at the scene of the crime?
See, not knowing the time factors, I got the impression they left to go to this people's place just after lunch, maybe. Yeah. And it was about 20 miles away, I think. Okay, yeah. So 20 miles in the car, and then the car ran out of petrol, and the sheriff said, we've got about 10 miles to walk. Now, the average person walks about 10 miles an hour on a good walk. And by the time they got there, these people were in bed.
Yeah, and by the time...
And this is just been about 6, 7, 8 hours later, and they're still walking.
Yeah.
They're going, okay.
Yeah, and by the time they arrived, it was already getting...
The party was over.
That it was already getting close to twilight, and all three killers were murdered and... murdered anyway. And they just witnessed the doctor chainsawing Crane to his demise, and they just witnessed the fact that they were not in the right frame of mind. But then again, if you had your own children murdered in front of you, well, not really. Actually, they didn't actually murder them in front of them, but it was really. They probably would never know what it would be like to lose a child like that. It's just so wrong when you think about how many children do get into these situations.
Anyway, here we go. I'll just about things about the censorship. Yeah, the United States, it actually went to the theatre.
Okay.
And the audiences were so horrified they'll demand that the projectors destroy the film.
Ugh.
And some projectors were so offended by the film they were cutting it up as it was going through.
Oh.
It was coming out. They didn't want to play it again. Yeah, so it really hit
everyone.
The people back in 1972 in a really hard way.
Yeah.
And that was in the US.
It's
it was refused certification in England, so it couldn't be played as far as I'm aware.
Despite the fact how much gore he got rid of, it still managed to glorify audiences.
Yeah, that's the point. They wouldn't get it passed. Now, during the 80s, it was released for home video. It was released uncut. So, there was a couple little bits maybe taken out, but basically how it was actually made. It was banned throughout the remainder of the 80s, different places, and it just, it had developed an underground cult reputation in the UK.
Yeah. I remember that.
It's just that people, it's sort of like zombie, that one was Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah, I mean, that one sort of, that one makes this one look like a kiddie film. I mean, by comparison,
Now here it is, Australia. We're in Australia.
Yes, we're Australian.
It was never banned in Australia, but it was never picked up for distribution in the country due to censorship issues.
Got it.
And I believe it actually hit videos later on.
At least it manages to make a profit, even if it meant just DVD or VHS.
They made money out of it. In New Zealand, this is a good band. The film was banned in New Zealand in 1988. Which actually, after so many years, the ban was lifted in 2004.
2004.
So it's a long ban.
Well, yeah, it's like you said about movies that affect people, years ago, and then after a period of years, they eventually suddenly get re-looked at, and they come out as not as gory as they thought when it first got released back then, obviously.
And there's some scenes which were never in the film, which were taken out. The lesbian rape scene where Mari and her friend Phyllis were forced to do lesbian sex. They took that out. So
it was implied in this one.
The 3-disc DVD Ultimate Edition, it may be in that one. It might be in there. Marie in her room, there was a nude when she was in the bedroom getting ready to go out. There's a nude scene for her getting ready. That was taken out. That never doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Marie raped by Sadie.
I kind of figured that they were doing that because Sadie came off as very sexually active.
They some things just to taken out just to get it through censorship, and they've lost the footage and stuff.
Yeah, I suppose that would be an issue and stuff.
Yeah, and there's a scene there where Marie was supposed to have been still alive.
Oh, really?
When the parents found her, and she told the parents what had happened to her and her friend Phyllis. But see, when they found her in the film, she was already dead.
But I think that from what they've seen with Junior wearing the peace medallion, it's enough to convince them that they're, and not to mention the conversation between the characters.
Wouldn't it be funny if he had one and she had one, and they killed the wrong people?
Oops. That would be an interesting thought.
Anyway, I'm not going to talk any more about this. These people are going to probably get bored of me talking. I think, really, for its time, 1972, it was typical of the movies of that time.
Well, it was not. It was an audience. Well, the 60s one, I can understand if that was blocked.
Well, that would have been tamer.
That would have been a tamer version.
Yeah.
But in this one, it came off as really off the page and probably
it was taking that quantum leap in.
It was taking a leap to try doing something
different.
Changing
from being tame and nice and like a picnic in the park into something going to be right in your face there and go, okay.
Yeah. Something really scary.
I'm going to say for its period. Yeah. For its time, I'm judging it from when it was actually released, not today. I would give that probably from Wes Craven's directing to the acting to the storyline and the way it's presented. I'm going to give it a 9.5, even though some people won't like it. I think what they've done, they went out there to assault your senses.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think for 1972, they did exactly that because they created a movie that was banned and everything else, even though it was a pretty damn good movie.
Well, true.
Yeah.
And I often think that, I think they were trying to get people to open their eyes.
Yeah, things like, they mentioned on the Vietnam War, and people said, we read about the newspaper, that they don't know what the violence is all about over there. So people are going over there and someone got shot. No, the people got shot. They got macheted. They got blown up. They got all these other things. But you hear about it, you don't see it.
Yeah, just about every time you go to today's newspapers, all I see is a quick message of what just happened on the news, and you don't see any of it.
And these people were desensitized because all the news and movies was so tame, you didn't see anything. So here you go, here's some real horror.
Yeah.
Wake up, people. And I think that's what they did, and that's what they aimed at, and Wes Craven did a good job.
Yes, so
9.5 from me on this one, even though on today's stand I wouldn't give it 9.5.
Yeah, me too. So I will say, I will agree with Mike here that I do like to give it 9.5 out of 10 myself, because I do think it had something going for it, and I'm kind of glad that this wasn't the end-or film for Wes Craven.
Yeah, good jumping off point.
There was a jumping off point for his career, even when a lot of people would say to me, I've actually previously watched Jim Henson's The Idea documentary, and even Jim Henson, when he had a problem with a film project or a film project didn't bother, kind of had review problems, he didn't give up. He kept
just keep going.
He kept going.
Never give up. Never surrender. Yeah.
He didn't let the reviewers, compromise his creative vision. Well, while some people say, back then said Dark Crystal was terrible then.
Possibly, for some people.
And The Labyrinth, again, terrible. But they went on to become cult classics. Yeah. Even when I was a little kid, when I watched it on television,
forget him for a minute.
I thought it was great.
Forget him for a minute. He got puppets. Now, you look at my hero, one of my heroes, Alfred Hitchcock. Some of his early movies, before Psycho and North by Northwest and everything, some of those movies failed miserably at the box office. They weren't very good. Did that stop him? No. He just kept going forward. Next movie, and the next movie could be the one.
Exactly.
And that's what it's got to be. You learn by your mistakes. Okay, the audience didn't like that, even though it's a good film. Why didn't they like it? It's sort of like Universal Studios, their Frankenstein, Dracula, and Wolfman movies. After so many movies, they knew this was time to bail out because it had been done. People wanted something new, so you don't make them anymore. And so, people's tastes change. That's it, Joe.
Yeah, I like it. If I could see the indie industry now, I would love to see more risks. I mean, nowadays it seems like we are.
It's the same old
same old stuff.
Yeah,
And I like
saying it's a shame, but it's safe to. People have to make money. I understand studios have to make money. Okay, don't get me wrong, but if you get something like a retail store, okay, same sort of similar thing, they're selling a product. They have a bad debt loss ratio type thing in there. It says for spoiled stock, shoplifting, that sort of stuff. Damaged goods. They have that geared into their financials.
Good.
They allow for that. So why don't the studios do the same thing and say, okay, we will do 80% of the stay safe stuff and 20% of something new and exciting, and try to forge new roads and go ahead and try bringing in a new independent guy who's really, really good and give him a chance to make a serious movie.
Yeah.
They would see. These older guys who are doing it are going to drop off the planet eventually, and there ain't anyone there to take their place.
Yeah.
So you need, and pardon the pun, you need new blood for these movies.
Yeah, okay? And not one being manhandled by the producers, telling them, "I want you to do this for me." Not
and producers aren't.
They're not giving them any
rope.
The
producers are bean counters. That's all. It's all about the money with them.
Yeah.
Then unless they're a producer director.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
you
all
get a good director.
Yeah.
Screenwriter, DOP, let them make the film.
Yeah, and it's all about them hiring a director. Like Catherine Kennedy, she just hires directors when they don't do their job. She rehires someone else to do the job
that she wants them to do, because she might be full of crap. I don't know what she's saying to them.
Me neither.
But it's not the first time the directors have been replaced, because there's a artistic conflict or something or other going on. They're not doing what the producer wants. At the end of the day, the producer's paying for it. They want but if the producer's not just a bean counter and doesn't have any real talent,
or real pull,
they should actually work and talk with the director and the DOP and the writer a little bit more in depth, and try to create a good product and make sure the money is spent in the right places.
Exactly. So, anyway,
sound good? I'm off my soapbox now, guys.
Yeah. So, Mike, where can we find Last House on the Left?
That thing. Right, here we go. eBay, it is there for sale. Yay! Amazon, you can rent it or you can buy it. So obviously it's out there. It's about, you can get it where you want it. Probably on other sale sites and streaming sites, you probably find it. Seeing it's such a good cult film.
Yes.
Ta-da! Anyway, so I think it's a good watch, and we haven't. I can't find anything really wrong with it.
I don't have anything wrong with it either.
For the time it was made in 1972. Like I said, if it was made today this way, I wouldn't say it was worth a 9.5, but for the year it was made in, that decade, it was pretty damn good. So it's worth a look. Yeah.
Anyway, next time on this channel, we're going to be reviewing the following movie, the I Spit on Your Grave. That was released in 1978. Another movie that could have gotten either the thumbs up or the thumbs down. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's another movie that deals with rape and bad stuff and revenge.
And we might throw another couple of early Wes Cravens in here in the future.
Most likely.
I got another one. I think Summer of Fear or something. Or
yeah, I heard.
Yeah, I got that one. So I have to go and have a look for that one.
Yeah. Anyway, I do agree with Mike here that this is a worthwhile watch. So keep an open mind about it. If you like ones that deal with the person taking revenge on the said people, causing grief, then this is a movie for you. If it's not a movie for you, you can move on to the next one. At this point, it's up to you guys out there.
Exactly.
So that's about it from us. Do you have anything to add, Mike?
Not a lot, no.
So that's it from us, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope you guys see us for the next one, hopefully. So this is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
See you around on Boys and Ghouls Film Review. Bye for now, and have a good week.
Bye, guys.